What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got the new Transformers theme deck to open, the new starter deck, which is actually coming out on Friday. It's not quite out yet. The lovely folks over at Wizards of the Coast, over at Transformers TCG HQ, they sent me one, which is very nice of them, and full disclosure, they were nice enough to send it to me for free. Thank you, Transformers people, you're awesome. So, we need to know what's in it. Now, the two very important points before we start off about this theme deck. Point number one, it does have exclusive character cards. It does not have exclusive battle cards. So these four characters can only be found in this theme deck, but all of the battle cards found herein can be gotten in other theme decks. Or not in theme decks, sorry, in packs. So the character cards are exclusive, the battle cards are not. The other thing, and this is a really important point, I am a fairly hardcore Transformers player. Some of you watching are probably hardcore Transformers players, who probably have a large collection and play a lot of games. It's not really designed for us. That's not to say it's not going to be good, or we're not going to enjoy it. It ain't for us. This is a starter deck. It's designed for newer players. Now, full disclosure, these are the four exclusive character cards. We've got a Megatron, Megatron, Bumblebee, Windblade, Starscream. None of them jump out as being particularly good. Back in the Wave 1 starter deck, the Bumblebee was quite good and the Optimus Prime was quite good. This is objectively worse than the starter deck Bumblebee we had. These two are fairly unexciting. And the Starscream, here's what I'll say. The Starscream is a 5-cost Starscream. And I did a video about the 5-cost Starscream, just having a quick look at, is it actually any good? Do we want to play it, etc. And I think there's an argument for the 5-cost Starscream. But to be 100% clear, these are not particularly great cards. They're quite low star cost. There's two 5-costs, that being Starscream and Windblade. And then the other two are 7 costs. The stats are not particularly great. The skills are not particularly game-breaking. They are fine. They're nice for starting to learn. They are not particularly great characters. My personal advice, though I do admit I have a collector's mentality, I think you should get one of these theme decks purely because then you've got a copy of all the cards. You never know what's going to come out in the future that might make one of these good. You never know. Other cards might come out that make them good. That could happen. But to be perfectly clear, these are not designed for full-on hardcore players. These are designed for newer players getting into the game. And I'm always going to be honest with you guys on this channel, that's kind of what I do. When I opened the Devastator deck a couple of weeks ago, I said very clearly you need the Devastator deck. Because Devastator has got a lot of potential, and there are some cards in there, especially Work Overtime, which can go into non-Devastator decks that you frankly need copies of. So when I opened it, I told you very clearly, you need a copy of the Devastator, and I still believe that very strongly, incidentally. You need a copy of the Devastator deck. Cheers, Ninja. You do not need this deck if you're a hardcore player. Now, if you're teaching people how to play, it's cool. If you want to have all the characters, it's cool. And there's some good stuff in here. But you don't need it as a hardcore player. However, if you know people are getting into the game, it's definitely worth it. So we have some damage counters here you can play with. And here's the other thing that's quite cool. There is a more complete rules booklet than we got last time around. This is more in-depth and has more information than the last one did. They have deliberately gone a little bit deeper in the rules than they did for the previous theme deck, where I believe it was on one card. I've got it here somewhere. Now, the other big difference, of course, the previous theme deck, the starter deck, only had Autobots, and some people were quite upset. Here you've got Autobots and Decepticons. Now, here's the weird thing. You got there's a 5-star Autobot, a 5-star Decepticon, and a 7-star Autobot and a 7-star Decepticon. I know, right? That's 24 stars. You can have 25 stars. But in here somewhere, there is a star card. Leap of Faith. Now this is one of the special battle cards that's so good, it actually takes one of the stars in your deck to play it. Now, it is my favourite of the star cards. I think it is the best one. It basically lets you play the top 2 cards of your deck. It's phenomenal. It's great. Who gets that? Because you can either play this as a 25-star deck in and of itself, or you can have one person with these 2 cards, the 2 Autobots, one person with the 2 Decepticons, and then you get 20 stars each. So, I'm just double checking here. Yeah, it doesn't actually say. So, it's a little bit strange. Someone's going to have a star card and the other person isn't. Whoever gets Leap of Faith, if you're playing it as a 2-player deck, whoever has Leap of Faith is going to have a huge advantage. Now, are there? Yes, there is. So, what do we have? We have a couple copies of Armoured Plating, a vanilla +1 defense card. It's fine. A couple copies of Equipment Enthusiast that lets you draw a card for every upgrade you have. Decent draw power. Couple copies of Grenade Launcher that gives you +4 attack, but it does fall off at the end of your turn. It's pretty good. Couple copies of New Designs, a very nice card that lets you play an extra upgrade. Now, it seems only one copy of Strafing Run. Strafing Run does 1 damage to each enemy. I'm assuming the person that doesn't get Leap of Faith gets Strafing Run, and Strafing Run does have some nice little damage there. Supercharge gives one of your characters Bold Free, and you'll notice, right, it ain't a coincidence that you're getting 2 copies of most of these cards. As I've said, you can play this as a deck in and of itself, or you can split it in half. And each player gets either the Autobots or the Decepticons, so it makes sense that you would have 2 copies of each card. 2 copies of Backup Beam, which gives you Bold 2. And of course you've got Supercharge gives you Bold 3 and Grenade Launch gives you +4 attack. Seems like we're going quite heavy on the attack. Now we do have 2 copies of Enforcement Batons here. Gives you +1 attack but lets you scrap an enemy weapon. 2 copies of Handheld Blaster that gives you Bold 1. Quite nice that we've got Bold 1, Bold 2 and Bold 3 rocking on. Couple copies of Improvised Shield that give you Tough 1. That's quite nice. Couple copies of Inferno Breath. Now this is quite nice. You get to tap one of your characters and then do 3 damage to an enemy. It's guaranteed damage. Couple copies of Pep Talk. Just a flat draw 2 cards. Couple copies of Primary Laser that gives you +2 attack. All the cards, as you can see, are coming up on screen. Now I am going to have to get rid of the character cards for a moment, or else I'm not going to have room for all the battle cards. Sorry, character cards. Couple copies of Reckless Charge that gives you +4 attack, which sounds amazing, and it is, just like in Grenade Launcher, but you've got to take 3 damage at the end of the turn. 2 copies of Rest and Relaxation. Repair 1 damage from one of your characters. Now that's actually got a green icon. At the end of a battle, when you flip a green icon, you can swap 1 card in your hand for a card that's got a green icon. You'll also see it on Enforcement Batons and Backup Beam. And you can see one of the points of this deck. You've got green icons, you've got bold, you've got tough, you've got star cards. It's got a little bit of everything. 2 copies of Security Console that gives you Plan 1. Lets you manipulate the top of your deck a little bit. 2 copies of Sparring Gear that give you Tough 2. That will go with the Tough 1 we got from Improvised Shield. 2 copies of Stealthiness, which gives you Stealth so you can avoid being attacked. No Brave in this deck, unfortunately. Or is there? Let me just double check. I don't think it's on any of the characters. No. We do have Pierce on one of the characters. Windblade does have Pierce. So that's another mechanic. And part of the point of this starter deck is it's trying to help you learn the game. So it makes sense that we would try and get all the mechanics in there. We then have 2 copies of Surprise Attack, which also gives you Pierce. And 2 copies of Vaporize, which lets you scrap an upgrade. There we go. It's got a little bit of everything. That's kind of the point of this theme deck. I keep saying theme deck. It is technically a starter deck. The point of the starter deck is, and I'm leaving it all laid out here so you can see it all. I know, like, Vaporize is partly off screen, but come on, you can see it. I've done me best. I've done me best. The whole point of this is that it's supposed to teach you how to play. So you can either, and one thing I would highly, highly recommend, get a Wave 1 starter deck, get a Wave 2 starter deck. use that. If you want to start learning the game and learning the basics, that's what I would recommend. Get the Wave 1 starter deck, Wave 2 starter deck, and play them against each other. Metroplex and Devastator decks are good, but they are a little bit more complicated, a little bit more full-on. Save that till you played a couple of games. But this has everything. You got Bold, you got Tough, you got Pierce, you got Plan. You got, actually, to be fair, it's missing Bravery. Bravery's like the only thing that you're missing. Other than that, it's got everything. I like this. No, it's not an absolute must-buy if you're an experienced player, whereas the Devastator deck absolutely was. But as you can see, it's got a nice variety of cards. I don't think there's any rare cards, unfortunately. Oh, yes, sir, I'm lying to you. There's usually, when they do these decks, there's usually one rare. Inferno Breath is the rare of choice here. So, it's got a lot of good cards, it's a good place to get started, and it's got exclusive character cards. And I don't know if you're anything like me, I want all the character cards. I hate the idea that one day this Windblade might actually be really good because of new battle cards released, and I don't have a copy of it and I can't find the theme deck. Maybe that's just me. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, that's the theme deck. It's now up to you whether you want to go and get yourself a copy of it. Huge thank you to the lovely folks at Wizards of the Coast for sending me a free copy. I'm a nerd, and I love this game. And if people want to send me cool stuff like this, I will only be delighted about it. So huge shout out to those lovely ladies and gentlemen for doing so. And as for you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. And if you do want to tell me your thoughts about this deck, that is what the comment section is there for. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.